Critical analysis of recent migrant rescue operations off the coast of Tunisia. Welcome to The Bold African Voice, BAV, where we bring you the latest insights, critical analysis, and forward-looking solutions to Africa's pressing issues. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. Today we explore a chilling yet inspiring story of survival. Over 30 migrants stranded on a gas platform off the coast of Tunisia, left exposed to the elements and without help. We'll analyze the broader migration crisis and compare this incident with similar tragedies across Africa. Stay tuned for an in-depth look at the realities and solutions surrounding irregular migration. In early March 2025, the Sea-Watch charity reported rescuing over 30 migrants, including 2 children, who had been stranded for 4 days on the Miskar gas platform off Tunisia's coast. The group had fled Libya, and their rubber dinghy became adrift, leaving them exposed to harsh conditions without food or medical care. Alarm Phone, a sea migrant support group, noted that during this period, 1 person died and others fell ill. This incident is emblematic of the broader challenges facing migrants attempting to cross the Mediterranean from North Africa to Europe. The central Mediterranean route, connecting Libya and Tunisia to Italy and Malta, remains one of the world's most perilous paths. In 2023, over 3,100 migrants and refugees lost their lives or went missing on this route, with the majority of deaths occurring in the central Mediterranean. Africa-wide comparison. The situation off Tunisia's coast mirrors broader migration challenges across Africa. In recent years, countries like Libya and Tunisia have seen significant numbers of migrants attempting dangerous sea crossings to Europe. For instance, in July 2023, a boat carrying migrants from Tunisia sank, resulting in 1 death and leaving 10 others missing. Similarly, in June 2023, a boat carrying migrants from Libya capsized off the coast of Greece, leading to at least 82 deaths. These incidents highlight the desperation of migrants fleeing conflict, persecution, and economic hardship in their home countries. The lack of safe and legal migration pathways forces many to rely on perilous routes controlled by human smugglers, further exacerbating the risks involved. Forward-looking approach. Addressing the challenges of Mediterranean migration requires a multifaceted approach. 1. Enhanced search and rescue operations. Strengthening the capabilities of both national coast guards and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, is crucial. Collaborative efforts can ensure timely responses to distress calls and reduce the number of lives lost at sea. 2. Establishment of safe and legal migration channels. Developing and expanding legal pathways for migration can reduce the reliance on dangerous sea routes. This includes humanitarian visas, resettlement programs, and labor migration schemes that prioritize the safety and dignity of migrants. appnews.com+1msf.org+1. 3. Addressing root causes. Long-term solutions necessitate tackling the underlying factors driving migration, such as conflict, human rights abuses, and economic instability. International support for development, peace building, and governance initiatives in countries of origin can mitigate these push factors. 4. Strengthening international cooperation. Migration is a global issue that requires coordinated responses. Collaboration among African nations, European countries, international organizations, and NGOs can lead to comprehensive strategies that uphold human rights while effectively managing migration flows. Latest developments. Recent reports indicate a continued focus on North African countries as key partners in controlling Mediterranean migration. Italy, for example, has entered into agreements with Tunisia to provide financial support in exchange for enhanced efforts to prevent migrants from setting sail toward Europe. However, these agreements have faced criticism due to reports of human rights abuses by Tunisian authorities against migrants. Similarly, the European Union has established funds aimed at stemming migration from Africa. Yet these initiatives have come under scrutiny for potentially failing to address human rights risks and for lacking a clear focus, raising concerns about their effectiveness and ethical implications. The rescue of migrants from the Miscar gas platform serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing challenges in the Mediterranean migration crisis. A comprehensive approach that combines immediate humanitarian assistance with long-term strategies addressing the root causes of migration is essential to protect vulnerable populations and uphold human rights. International criticism of migration, control agreements. The ongoing partnerships between European governments and North African countries such as Tunisia and Libya have been heavily criticized by human rights organizations. These agreements, which include financial incentives and promises of increased support for migrant interception efforts, have raised concerns about the safety and well-being of the migrants they are meant to control. There is a growing body of evidence suggesting that these agreements often result in human rights violations, such as detention in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, forced returns to unstable regions, and mistreatment by authorities. Human rights groups, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, argue that such agreements fail to protect migrants' rights and often push them into even more dangerous situations. As migrants are forced back into Libya or detained in Tunisia, they often fall into the hands of human traffickers and militia groups who exploit them further. Reports of abuse, including physical violence, sexual assault, and forced labor, are rampant in detention centers across the region. The European Union's commitment to tackling irregular migration has been questioned, as it relies heavily on countries with poor human rights records to stem migration flows. At the same time, the European Union's actions have been framed as necessary to manage migration pressures, particularly as nations like Italy face growing public and political pressure to curtail irregular migration. This balancing act between humanitarian obligations and national security concerns has resulted in policies that have been widely regarded as problematic. The signing of the latest deal with Tunisia, which includes a financial aid package in exchange for stronger border control efforts, may, at best, delay migrant arrivals, but at what cost to human dignity? These ongoing debates highlight the ethical dilemma between preventing migrant arrivals and respecting the fundamental rights of individuals fleeing war, poverty, and violence. Comparative regional efforts to address migration. The situation in North Africa is not unique, though the Mediterranean remains the most active and perilous route for migrants attempting to reach Europe. Other regions, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, face similar challenges in handling migration flows within the continent and to external destinations. The East African route, for instance, also witnesses large numbers of migrants attempting to cross the Mediterranean or use dangerous land routes to reach Europe. Countries such as Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia, where conflict and economic hardship persist, contribute significantly to the migration flows. Yet these countries, unlike North African states, often lack the infrastructure and agreements with European states to prevent migrants from crossing to Europe. In comparison, the West African region experiences different migration dynamics. Countries like Nigeria, Guinea, and Senegal see many migrants embarking on journeys through the Sahara Desert, ultimately crossing through Libya or Morocco to reach Europe. Here, too, migrants are subjected to hazardous conditions, and many are forced to live in overcrowded and unsafe conditions in transit cities. However, what distinguishes West Africa is the growing number of regional agreements focused on facilitating intra-Africa migration and addressing the root causes of displacement through collaborative regional strategies. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has taken steps to improve mobility within the region, even as it grapples with the challenge of providing adequate protection and rights for migrants who continue to make dangerous attempts to cross into Europe. Meanwhile, the Southern African region presents its own unique challenges, with migrants primarily seeking opportunities in South Africa. South Africa has long been a destination for migrants from Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and further afield, often due to political instability and economic deprivation in their home countries. While some of these migrants make their way to Europe, the majority attempt to enter South Africa, where the country's immigration policies have been under scrutiny. In 2022, South Africa's Department of Home Affairs announced plans to overhaul its immigration laws to limit access for migrants from neighboring countries, a move that has been met with both support and criticism. On the one hand, it is argued that this will help the government manage increasing social strain and resources. On the other hand, it risks further marginalizing vulnerable populations and perpetuating xenophobia. These regional comparisons highlight the need for broader, more integrated approaches to migration that involve both prevention of illegal crossings and protection for migrants on the move. It also underscores the importance of robust, region-specific policies that recognize the unique challenges each area faces while ensuring that human rights are not violated in the process. A comprehensive policy solution for the African continent. Given the complex nature of migration in Africa and its intersection with global political and economic factors, a comprehensive and collaborative approach is urgently needed. This approach should involve not only North African countries, but also European states and African countries in the sub-Saharan region. One of the key steps in this process is the creation of a unified continental migration framework that incorporates both migrant protection and the facilitation of legal migration channels. The African Union, AU, can play a pivotal role by coordinating efforts among African countries to ensure that regional migration policies align with international human rights standards. This will require substantial investment in border management, asylum systems, and cross-border cooperation. It also calls for ensuring that African governments uphold their commitments to protect migrant rights while simultaneously regulating migration flows in a way that is beneficial to both the migrants and the host countries. Furthermore, the establishment of legal migration channels within Africa could go a long way toward reducing the need for dangerous journeys. For example, the AU's Agenda 2063 initiative aims to create a prosperous, integrated Africa with shared values. By aligning migration policies with these goals, the continent can create pathways that allow migrants to move safely and legally within Africa. Additionally, European countries should begin to mirror these policies by offering more legal opportunities for migration, such as work visas and humanitarian resettlement programs. In parallel, international support in the form of capacity building, development aid, and regional conflict prevention will be crucial. The African Union and the United Nations must work together to address the root causes of migration, including conflict, climate change, and economic instability, to create conditions that prevent forced migration. Addressing the root causes of migration. A long-term strategy. To effectively address the issue of migration, it is essential to focus not only on controlling borders and preventing illegal crossings, but also on addressing the root causes of migration. Many of the individuals making the perilous journey across the Mediterranean and through the Sahara Desert are fleeing dire circumstances in their home countries, such as war, political instability, persecution, and economic hardship. Tackling these causes requires a holistic and long-term strategy aimed at improving governance, creating economic opportunities, and ensuring human rights within countries of origin. Conflict resolution and peace-building initiatives. One of the most significant drivers of migration is conflict. Countries such as Somalia, South Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have experienced protracted conflicts that have displaced millions of people within Africa and beyond. The African Union, AU, has taken steps to address conflicts through peacekeeping missions and mediation efforts. However, these efforts are often hampered by limited resources, the lack of political will, and the complex nature of the conflicts. Moving forward, the AU and its member states must strengthen their commitment to peace-building initiatives. This involves not only deploying peacekeeping forces, but also addressing the root causes of conflicts, such as ethnic tensions, political exclusion, and resource competition. Furthermore, international actors, including the United Nations and regional powers, must collaborate with African nations to ensure that peace agreements are respected and that long-term stability is achieved. One such example is the peace process in South Sudan, where the AU and the UN have worked together to support a fragile peace agreement. While progress has been slow, continued diplomatic engagement and support for the country's reconstruction are crucial to ensuring that displaced people can safely return to their homes. By prioritizing conflict resolution and peace-building efforts across the continent, African governments can significantly reduce the number of people forced to flee their homes due to violence. Economic development and job creation. Another root cause of migration is economic hardship. Many African countries struggle with high unemployment rates, poverty, and a lack of access to basic services such as education and healthcare. This economic inequality, coupled with the promise of better opportunities in Europe, drives many individuals to undertake dangerous journeys. However, addressing these economic challenges requires a multi-pronged approach that includes investment in infrastructure, education, and sustainable development. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, which came into effect in 2021, presents an opportunity to address some of the economic drivers of migration by promoting intra-Africa trade and reducing barriers to economic integration. If successful, AfCFTA could create jobs, boost local economies, and provide individuals with the opportunity to work within their home countries, reducing the incentives to migrate. However, for AfCFTA to succeed in addressing migration, it must be accompanied by investments in key sectors such as agriculture, technology, and manufacturing. These industries can create sustainable job opportunities for young people who make up a significant portion of the migrant population. Additionally, improving access to quality education and vocational training can help equip young people with the skills needed to thrive in the modern economy, further reducing the need to migrate. Climate change and environmental factors. Climate change is also an increasingly important factor driving migration across Africa. The continent is experiencing more frequent and severe weather events, such as droughts, floods, and desertification, which disrupt agriculture, livelihoods, and food security. Countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, and Chad have seen large numbers of people displaced due to climate-related factors. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has warned that without significant adaptation efforts, millions of people in Africa could be forced to migrate due to environmental stress. To address this, African countries must prioritize climate change adaptation strategies. This includes investing in sustainable agricultural practices, improving water management, and developing early warning systems to prepare for extreme weather events. Additionally, international climate financing should be directed toward helping vulnerable populations in Africa adapt to the impacts of climate change, rather than simply focusing on mitigation efforts. By strengthening climate resilience, African nations can help reduce the number of climate-induced migrants and ensure that people can continue to live in their home countries despite environmental challenges. Regional cooperation and governance. As migration continues to shape the political and social landscape in Africa and beyond, regional cooperation is essential. While countries in North Africa, such as Tunisia and Libya, are on the front line of migration management, they cannot solve the problem alone. Migration is a Pan-African issue that requires cooperation across the continent, with both governments and civil society working together to create solutions. The African Union has taken steps toward regional cooperation through initiatives such as the Migration Policy Framework for Africa and the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. These frameworks encourage African countries to collaborate on migration management, human rights protection, and addressing the root causes of migration. However, the success of these initiatives depends on the political will of African governments to implement policies that are both effective and humane. In addition to regional governmental efforts, civil society organizations play a vital role in addressing migration issues. NGOs such as Sea-Watch, Alarm Phone, and others provide essential support to migrants, offering rescue operations, legal aid, and humanitarian assistance. These organizations work tirelessly to protect the rights of migrants and ensure their safety while in transit, Their work, however, often faces obstacles, including political pressure, legal restrictions, and funding shortages. To support these efforts, African governments and the international community must create an environment where NGOs can operate freely and without fear of reprisal. The rescue of over 30 migrants stranded on the Miskar platform is a stark reminder of the human cost of irregular migration. While this is just one example, it reflects a much broader and increasingly urgent crisis in the Mediterranean and across Africa. The challenges posed by irregular migration are complex and multifaceted, requiring a comprehensive approach that combines immediate humanitarian response with long-term strategies to address the root causes of migration. This includes strengthening governance, creating economic opportunities, addressing the impacts of climate change, and promoting regional cooperation. Only through collective action by African governments, the European Union, international organizations, and civil society can we hope to manage migration in a way that respects human rights and provides safety and dignity for all migrants. The way forward is not without challenges, but with concerted effort and collaboration, there is hope for a future where migration is no longer seen as a desperate escape, but rather as a choice made in safety and security. The role of technology in migrant protection and monitoring. As migration continues to pose complex challenges, technology can play a significant role in improving migrant safety and streamlining management efforts. From real-time tracking systems to better communication networks, technological innovations have the potential to enhance search and rescue operations, improve migration data collection, and provide migrants with the tools they need to stay informed during their journey. One of the most impactful uses of technology in this context is the integration of digital platforms that allow migrants to send distress signals and receive immediate assistance. The work of groups like Alarm Phone, which provides a lifeline to migrants at sea, could be expanded with the help of advanced tracking and monitoring systems. These systems could potentially detect boats in distress based on location data and environmental conditions, allowing for more accurate and rapid responses by coast guards and NGOs. Additionally, the use of drones and surveillance technology is becoming increasingly popular for monitoring migration routes, particularly in the Mediterranean and along the Saharan corridor. Drones, operated by both humanitarian organizations and government agencies, are being used to locate migrant boats in distress, provide aerial support during rescue missions, and survey remote areas that are difficult to reach by land or sea. By enhancing operational efficiency and response time, these technologies can save lives. Furthermore, improved communication tools, such as mobile apps, can be used to keep migrants informed about safe routes, available resources, and real-time alerts regarding dangerous weather conditions or border closures. Through these channels, migrants can receive vital information that could help them make safer decisions, whether they are on land or at sea. Strengthening legal frameworks for migrants' rights. In addition to the humanitarian and technological aspects of migration, a crucial component of any long-term solution is the establishment and enforcement of robust legal frameworks that protect migrants' rights. Currently, many African countries, as well as transit and destination countries in Europe, struggle with consistent implementation of migrant protection laws. The African Union's Migration Policy Framework for Africa outlines key principles and recommendations for improving migration governance, including the protection of migrant workers, refugees, and internally displaced persons, IDPs. However, there are gaps in enforcement and a lack of uniformity across member states in terms of commitment to upholding these standards. As a result, many migrants face exploitation, human trafficking, and arbitrary detention, particularly in countries where the legal infrastructure is weak or ineffective. To address these challenges, African governments must prioritize the creation and implementation of comprehensive migrant protection laws that align with international standards, such as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the 1951 Refugee Convention. These laws should provide clear guidelines for asylum procedures, protections against refoulement, forced return to unsafe countries, and humane treatment of migrants in detention facilities. In addition to national legal frameworks, regional cooperation between African nations is essential to ensure consistency in the application of migrant rights. The African Union could strengthen its role as a coordinating body for harmonizing migration policies across member states, thereby creating a more unified approach to protecting migrants across the continent. It is essential that African countries implement policies that not only regulate migration flows, but also provide safe legal channels for migration. For European countries, the development of migration and asylum policies that are human-centered is also crucial. This means ensuring that the European Union's approach to border security, while prioritizing national security concerns, does not come at the expense of the rights and safety of migrants. European countries must abide by their international obligations to protect refugees and migrants, even as they seek to prevent irregular migration. The need for regional solutions in Africa. While international cooperation is vital, regional solutions tailored to the specific challenges of different African regions are equally important. Africa's migration patterns are diverse, with each region facing unique challenges that require distinct responses. For example, the Sahel region, which includes countries like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, is plagued by ongoing conflicts, political instability, and the effects of climate change, all of which drive large numbers of people to migrate. In such regions, the focus should be on providing immediate humanitarian assistance, protecting refugees, and supporting governments in peacebuilding and stabilizing efforts. This could involve more effective collaboration between the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, the African Union, and the European Union to create comprehensive solutions to the Sahel's migration crises. In East Africa, migration patterns are often influenced by both conflict and environmental factors, such as drought and desertification. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, has been working with East African nations to develop a more coordinated approach to addressing migration, including providing support to migrants in transit and strengthening asylum procedures. Efforts in East Africa should include both emergency response initiatives and long-term development strategies that enhance climate resilience and address food insecurity, particularly in drought-prone areas. Meanwhile, Southern Africa faces a different set of challenges, with many migrants seeking opportunities in South Africa, one of the continent's most economically advanced countries. The movement of people within Southern Africa requires the creation of both legal migration frameworks and economic opportunities within countries of origin. Moreover, South Africa's policies regarding migration and asylum must evolve to ensure that migrants are treated with dignity and respect, rather than being subjected to xenophobic violence and exploitation. Moving forward with solidarity and responsibility. The Mediterranean migration crisis continues to evolve, with tragic stories of stranded migrants serving as a stark reminder of the urgency of finding lasting solutions. As the numbers of people fleeing conflict, economic instability, and climate change continue to rise, African and European nations must collaborate in meaningful ways that prioritize the rights and safety of migrants. A multifaceted approach is required, one that combines humanitarian response, technological innovation, legal protection, regional cooperation, and long-term development. By addressing the root causes of migration, improving legal frameworks, and offering safer migration channels, both African and European countries can contribute to creating a future where migration is a choice rather than a desperate necessity. Ultimately, the key to solving the migration crisis lies in shared responsibility. Both African and European nations must work together, along with international partners and civil society organizations, to build a more just, humane, and equitable system for managing migration. By doing so, they will not only save lives, but also uphold the values of human dignity and solidarity that should guide the global response to migration in the 21st century. Collaborative partnerships between governments and NGOs. A critical aspect of addressing the migration crisis in the Mediterranean and across Africa is the partnership between governments and non-governmental organizations, NGOs. While governments play an essential role in establishing policies and regulations, NGOs are often at the forefront of providing immediate relief, humanitarian assistance, and advocacy for migrants' rights. NGOs such as Sea-Watch, Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, and the International Rescue Committee, IRC, have been indispensable in saving lives at sea and providing shelter, medical care, and psychological support to migrants. These organizations fill the gaps left by governments, particularly in regions with inadequate resources or political will to address the migration crisis effectively. For example, Sea-Watch's recent rescue mission in Tunisia highlights the critical role that NGOs play in identifying migrant distress signals, organizing rescue operations, and ensuring that migrants receive essential care. However, these NGOs often face obstacles in the form of restrictive immigration policies, legal challenges, and sometimes even hostility from local governments. For instance, the Italian government has imposed heavy restrictions on NGOs operating in the Mediterranean, including requiring them to register their vessels and restricting their activities. This has made it increasingly difficult for these organizations to carry out their humanitarian missions, which may directly impact on the lives of migrants stranded at sea. In addition to these operational challenges, NGOs are frequently subject to funding limitations, which can constrain their capacity to respond effectively. Governments and international donors must recognize the vital role of NGOs in migration management and human rights protection by providing more consistent and generous financial support. Governments can also facilitate the work of NGOs by implementing policies that allow for the smooth operation of rescue missions and ensure that humanitarian assistance is not criminalized. The role of public awareness and advocacy in migration policy. One of the most powerful tools in the fight for migrants' rights is public awareness and advocacy. Public opinion can have a significant impact on shaping migration policies, and an informed and engaged public is essential for creating an environment that fosters compassion and understanding towards migrants. In many European countries, there is significant public resistance to migration, largely due to fear of the unknown and the portrayal of migrants in the media as a threat to security and economic stability. This has led to the rise of populist political movements that advocate for stricter border controls and policies that limit the entry of migrants. However, the rise of advocacy campaigns and media efforts focused on humanizing the migration crisis has played a crucial role in countering this narrative. Organizations such as Amnesty International, the European Council on Refugees and Exiles, ECRE, and other civil society groups have worked tirelessly to raise awareness of the plight of migrants and advocate for more humane migration policies. These groups employ a variety of strategies, including campaigns, petitions, and lobbying efforts, to influence both public opinion and government policy. For example, the Chorscht Save Mediterranean campaign, which calls for the continuation of rescue missions in the Mediterranean, has garnered international attention and pushed governments to reevaluate their migration policies. In addition to these efforts, the media plays an essential role in shaping public discourse about migration. By focusing on personal stories, documenting the journeys of migrants, and highlighting the dangers they face, the media can help shift the narrative away from fear and demonization to one of empathy and solidarity. Documentaries, social media campaigns, and journalistic investigations have the power to bring the human face of migration into public view, fostering a deeper understanding of the reasons behind migration and the need for policy reform. Enhancing migration management systems across Africa. In Africa, the migration crisis is compounded by weak governance structures and inadequate management systems for migration. In many countries, migration data collection is minimal, and there is no centralized system to track migrant movements or coordinate migration policies. This lack of data makes it difficult to assess the scale of migration flows, understand the underlying causes, and implement targeted interventions. To address these gaps, African governments must prioritize the development of effective migration management systems that can monitor migration trends and provide essential services to migrants. This includes creating registration systems for migrants, establishing safe transit centers, and ensuring that migrants have access to legal assistance, health services, and protection. Improved data collection would also enable governments to better allocate resources and tailor policies to specific migration dynamics in their countries. At the regional level, organizations like the African Union, AU, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, can help foster cooperation among member states to create harmonized migration policies. These policies would facilitate the movement of people within Africa, particularly for economic, educational, and humanitarian purposes, while ensuring that migrants are treated fairly and humanely. Regional cooperation can also help address irregular migration by providing opportunities for migrants to move safely and legally within Africa. For example, creating regional labor mobility schemes could allow individuals to find employment in neighboring countries without resorting to dangerous migration routes. This approach would benefit both migrants and the economies of receiving countries, fostering a more integrated and resilient African continent. Expanding legal pathways for migration. Expanding legal pathways for migration is essential in reducing the reliance on dangerous, irregular routes. At present, many migrants are forced to take hazardous journeys because legal migration opportunities are limited, and those that exist are often difficult to access. The lack of legal channels is particularly problematic for individuals fleeing violence, persecution, or extreme poverty who have no other option but to undertake perilous journeys to find safety and stability. Both African and European governments should work together to create more legal pathways for migration, particularly for people seeking asylum, refugee status, or temporary protection. This could include the expansion of family reunification programs, student visas, and work permits, as well as the creation of humanitarian corridors for those fleeing conflict and natural disasters. In particular, the European Union should increase its resettlement quotas and provide more opportunities for refugees from Africa and the Middle East to apply for asylum directly from their home countries or third-party states. This would significantly reduce the need for migrants to embark on dangerous journeys across the Mediterranean. Furthermore, African countries should explore the possibility of creating regional migration schemes that allow people to move more easily between countries within the continent. By removing restrictions on labor migration, countries can help address skills shortages and provide economic opportunities for their citizens, reducing the pressure to migrate outside of Africa. A call for international responsibility and human solidarity. The Mediterranean migration crisis is a complex and multifaceted issue that requires a global, collaborative response. African governments, European nations, international organizations, NGOs, and the public must come together to tackle the crisis with a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of migration while ensuring the protection and dignity of migrants. By strengthening legal frameworks, improving migration management systems, expanding legal migration pathways, and fostering greater regional cooperation, we can create a more sustainable and humane migration system. Moreover, governments must recognize their shared responsibility for the welfare of migrants and work to ensure that migration is a choice, not a last resort driven by desperation and fear. In the end, the migration crisis is not just a challenge for Africa or Europe to solve in isolation. It is a global issue that calls for solidarity, empathy, and action. With coordinated efforts and a commitment to human rights, we can work toward a future where migration is a safe and dignified experience for all. The role of global cooperation in shaping migration policy. The global community plays an integral role in shaping the policies and actions that govern migration flows, and this issue requires more than just regional or national solutions. Migration is inherently transnational, and as such, it demands a cooperative global response that prioritizes both human rights and pragmatic solutions to challenges like security, economic inequality, and environmental displacement. International frameworks like the United Nations Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, GCM, emphasize the importance of global cooperation in managing migration flows. Signed by over 160 countries in 2018, the GCM is a non-legally binding agreement aimed at improving cooperation on international migration and creating a comprehensive approach to managing migration that ensures migrants' protection and dignity. It is an essential step in recognizing the shared responsibility of countries worldwide in the migration crisis. However, the implementation of the GCM and similar frameworks has been inconsistent. Some countries, particularly in Europe, have shown reluctance to fully embrace the compact, citing concerns about national sovereignty or security. For these countries, the ongoing politicization of migration is a significant obstacle to effective global cooperation. This reluctance, combined with rising populist movements, has undermined the spirit of solidarity and cooperation that should drive international migration policy. To move forward, there is a need for greater political will among global leaders to align their policies with human rights principles and ensure that international agreements, such as the GCM, are properly implemented. Effective migration management can only be achieved if countries are willing to work together, setting aside differences to create shared solutions. The importance of this collaboration cannot be overstated, as migration will continue to be a central global issue that requires both collective action and shared responsibility. Increasing the role of the private sector in migration solutions. The private sector also has an essential role to play in addressing the migration crisis. While governments and NGOs are primarily responsible for providing aid and enacting policy changes, businesses can contribute significantly by supporting job creation, economic development, and the provision of services to migrant populations. Many companies, especially in sectors like technology, agriculture, and healthcare, rely on migrant labor to fill essential roles. By embracing migrant workers and ensuring that their rights are protected, the private sector can contribute to both the economic integration of migrants and the sustainable development of countries of origin. Furthermore, businesses can partner with governments and NGOs to create more robust systems for migrant integration, providing access to housing, legal assistance, healthcare, and education. This is particularly crucial in host countries that struggle with integrating large numbers of migrants. Companies can also support initiatives aimed at increasing the availability of legal migration pathways, offering technical assistance or financial support to NGOs working on the ground. Moreover, businesses can leverage technology to improve migration management, such as through creating digital platforms for legal documentation or financial services for migrants. Companies that specialize in mobile payments or digital banking, for instance, can ensure that migrants have access to banking services even if they are in transit or living in a refugee camp. By providing such services, the private sector can reduce the economic vulnerability of migrants and contribute to their economic independence and stability. The role of education and capacity building in migration management. Another critical element of effective migration management is the role of education and capacity building initiatives, both in the countries of origin and destination. Empowering migrants with the knowledge and skills necessary to navigate the complex systems of migration, legal documentation, and integration is essential for their success. Providing access to education also helps reduce the risks migrants face, such as exploitation and trafficking, by equipping them with tools for independence. Capacity building, too, is vital for the authorities responsible for managing migration. Many African countries lack the necessary resources and expertise to manage migration flows effectively, particularly in handling asylum claims, border control, and refugee protection. International organizations, such as the International Organization for Migration, IOM, and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, can assist governments by providing technical support and training to strengthen the capacity of immigration authorities. In addition, governments can invest in their own training programs, ensuring that border and immigration officials are equipped to handle complex migration cases while respecting the rights of migrants. In the destination countries, educational programs aimed at both the general public and public officials can promote understanding of the benefits of migration and the challenges migrants face. Public awareness campaigns can help dispel misconceptions, reduce xenophobia, and foster social cohesion. Additionally, training programs for local governments and businesses can ease the integration of migrants by providing them with practical skills for employment, housing, and education. Addressing the gender dimensions of migration. The gender dynamics of migration are often overlooked, yet they are an essential aspect of the migration crisis. Women and girls face unique risks during migration, including gender-based violence, exploitation, and trafficking. In many cases, women and children are disproportionately affected by the dangers of irregular migration, particularly when they are traveling alone or in vulnerable groups. A comprehensive approach to migration management must address these gender-specific challenges by ensuring that women and girls have access to appropriate legal protections, health care, and support services. Policies should be designed to prevent gender-based violence and exploitation and should guarantee that women have access to equal opportunities in migration processes, whether they are seeking asylum, employment, or family reunification. Furthermore, gender-sensitive migration policies should include the empowerment of women within migration management frameworks, ensuring that women have a voice in the decisions that affect them. This could involve the creation of women-centered advocacy groups, the involvement of women in peace-building efforts in conflict areas, and the provision of targeted programs that address the specific needs of female migrants. By prioritizing gender in migration policies, the international community can ensure that the rights of women and girls are protected, ultimately leading to more inclusive and effective migration systems. The need for a holistic migration framework. The migration crisis is one of the most pressing challenges of our time. It is not a singular issue, but a multidimensional phenomenon that involves the intersection of human rights, security, economics, and social dynamics. As such, any approach to managing migration must be holistic, integrating humanitarian aid, legal reforms, economic development, and international cooperation. To be successful, migration management must balance the immediate need for protection and relief with the long-term goals of integration, economic growth, and stability. By addressing the root causes of migration, conflict, poverty, climate change, and political instability, while ensuring the humane treatment of migrants, the international community can foster a migration system that benefits both the individuals involved and the broader societies in which they live. The complexity of the migration issue demands that all stakeholders, governments, NGOs, businesses, and civil society work together in a spirit of collaboration and solidarity. Only by doing so will we create a world where migration is a positive force for social, cultural, and economic development rather than a tragic, dangerous journey that too many are forced to endure. The impact of migration on host communities, managing social cohesion. As migration flows increase, the role of host communities in welcoming and integrating migrants becomes ever more crucial. While migration brings economic and cultural benefits, it can also present challenges for communities that may feel overwhelmed or uncertain about their ability to accommodate newcomers. Managing social cohesion, especially in countries with limited resources or in regions facing economic difficulties, is a complex issue that requires careful planning and investment. Host communities often experience increased pressure on public services such as healthcare, education, housing, and transportation. This can lead to tensions between migrant and local populations, particularly if migrants are perceived as taking up scarce resources. However, these challenges can be mitigated through well-designed integration policies that focus on mutual benefit and shared prosperity. One of the most effective ways to foster social cohesion is through community-based programs that involve both migrants and local populations in the integration process. Local governments, in collaboration with NGOs and community organizations, can create initiatives that encourage cultural exchange, promote mutual understanding, and reduce stereotypes. Educational programs that highlight the contributions migrants make to society, as well as community events that celebrate diversity, can help build trust and social bonds. Furthermore, the private sector can play a pivotal role in supporting the integration of migrants by offering job opportunities and vocational training. Many migrants possess skills and talents that can contribute to the local economy, and providing pathways to employment not only benefits migrants, but also strengthens the overall workforce. Companies can partner with local governments and NGOs to offer job placement programs, apprenticeships, and other initiatives that encourage migrant integration. It is also essential to involve migrants in the decision-making processes that affect them. By creating inclusive policies that ensure migrants have access to legal, economic, and social services, governments can help reduce feelings of marginalization and increase migrants' sense of belonging. Ensuring that migrants have representation in local governments or community organizations can also help ensure that their needs are addressed in a way that benefits both them and the host population. Strengthening regional migration policies in Africa. Across Africa, migration is often driven by factors such as conflict, economic disparity, and environmental degradation. While many African countries experience outward migration toward Europe and other continents, there is also a significant amount of internal migration within the continent. This includes people moving from rural areas to urban centers in search of better opportunities, as well as refugees and internally displaced people, IDPs, fleeing conflict zones. In response to these challenges, the African Union (AU) has called for the establishment of a more robust regional migration framework. The African Union's Migration Policy Framework and the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons aim to enhance mobility across the continent while ensuring that migrants' rights are protected. However, the full implementation of these policies has been slow, and many countries continue to maintain restrictive border controls and immigration policies that limit the movement of people. One critical step forward would be for African countries to remove visa requirements for travel within the continent and establish mutual recognition of qualifications, making it easier for people to move for employment or educational opportunities. Moreover, regional bodies such as the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the East African Community, EAC, have already shown that increased regional integration can lead to greater opportunities for migrants within the continent, whether for work, trade, or social services. In addition to free movement, countries in Africa should focus on ensuring the safety and well-being of migrants, especially refugees and IDPs. This could involve expanding refugee resettlement programs, improving access to healthcare, and ensuring that displaced people have access to education and economic opportunities. The role of the African Union, together with its regional economic communities, is key in ensuring that these initiatives are implemented in a way that benefits migrants and reduces the burden on host communities. The need for comprehensive international migration agreements. While regional cooperation is critical for addressing migration in Africa, the global nature of migration means that international agreements and partnerships are also essential. Migration is influenced by factors that extend beyond the borders of any single country, including climate change, economic policy, and geopolitical instability. As a result, international agreements must be created that balance the interests of countries of origin, transit, and destination. A more comprehensive approach to international migration agreements would involve multi-stakeholder cooperation, including governments, NGOs, international organizations, and the private sector. For example, global frameworks like the Global Compact for Migration, GCM, can help countries coordinate their efforts to manage migration more effectively while ensuring the protection of migrant rights. However, for the GCM to be fully effective, there needs to be greater commitment from countries to honor their agreements and ensure that migrants are treated with dignity no matter where they are. This includes ensuring that destination countries are providing adequate legal protections for migrants, especially for vulnerable groups such as refugees and unaccompanied minors. Simultaneously, countries of origin should be supported in addressing the root causes of migration, including poverty, conflict, and environmental degradation. international partnerships that focus on development assistance, conflict resolution, and climate adaptation will go a long way in addressing these underlying issues. Furthermore, international cooperation is necessary to improve the monitoring and regulation of migration flows. This can be done by creating shared systems for tracking migrant movements, ensuring that asylum seekers are not sent back to dangerous situations known as non-refoulement, and facilitating safe pathways for migration that reduce the reliance on human traffickers and smugglers. By working together, countries can create a migration system that is safe, legal, and humane for all parties involved. Improving the safety of migration routes. One of the key issues that must be addressed in the context of migration management is the safety of migration routes. As we have seen with recent tragedies in the Mediterranean, migrants often face perilous conditions when traveling to their destinations. Overcrowded boats, lack of food and water, and the threat of drowning are just some of the dangers that migrants face. In addition, migrants are often at the mercy of smugglers and traffickers who exploit them for profit. To reduce these risks, there must be a concerted effort to ensure that migration routes are safe and that migrants have access to protection and assistance throughout their journey. One potential solution is the expansion of legal migration pathways that allow migrants to travel through safe and regulated routes, reducing the need to rely on dangerous smuggling networks. Another crucial aspect of improving safety is the provision of more robust search and rescue operations. Organizations like Sea-Watch and the European Union's Frontex agency play a vital role in rescuing migrants from perilous situations at sea. However, these efforts must be expanded, with both governmental and non-governmental actors collaborating to ensure that distress calls are responded to promptly and that rescue operations are adequately funded and resourced. Moreover, enhancing border control mechanisms can help to prevent migrants from being forced into irregular and dangerous routes. By investing in technology that tracks migration movements, governments can improve their ability to monitor migration flows and prevent the exploitation of migrants by smugglers. A unified approach to migration. The issue of migration is one that requires collaboration across borders, sectors, and levels of government. From enhancing regional integration in Africa to fostering international agreements and improving migration safety, a unified approach is essential to managing migration in a way that respects human dignity and offers real solutions to the challenges faced by migrants. The key to addressing the migration crisis lies not in the enforcement of restrictive policies, but in the creation of comprehensive, humane systems that prioritize the well-being of migrants. By recognizing the shared responsibility of both African and European countries, alongside international organizations and the private sector, we can build a global migration system that is both just and sustainable. The path forward involves acknowledging the complexities of migration, addressing its root causes, and working together to create a safer, more equitable world for all people, regardless of their migration status. As the migration crisis continues to unfold, the time for action is now. By committing to global cooperation, legal migration channels, and the protection of migrant rights, we can shape a future where migration is a choice made in safety and dignity, not a forced escape from hardship. The role of migration in promoting global economic growth. Migration is often viewed through the lens of humanitarian needs and security concerns, but it also has profound economic implications for both migrant sending and receiving countries. Migrants contribute significantly to the economies of their host countries by filling labor shortages, contributing to innovation, and stimulating economic growth. In fact, studies have shown that migration, when properly managed, can lead to positive economic outcomes for both migrant communities and host countries. In receiving countries, migrants often take on essential jobs in sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, construction, and hospitality, industries that are often less attractive to local populations. This is especially true in Europe and parts of North America, where aging populations and low birth rates have created significant gaps in the labor market. Migrants play a key role in sustaining these economies, contributing to the funding of public services and the pension system through taxes and social security contributions. Furthermore, migrants often bring with them skills, entrepreneurship, and fresh perspectives that contribute to the growth and dynamism of the host country's economy. Many migrants start their own businesses, which creates jobs and stimulates local economies. For example, migrant-owned businesses in the United States have been shown to be more likely to hire other immigrants, fostering economic integration and diversity in the workforce. Similarly, in African countries, migrants who return home after spending time abroad often bring with them valuable skills, networks, and financial resources that help drive innovation and development. Sending countries also benefit economically from migration. Remittances sent by migrants to their families and communities are a vital source of income for many developing countries. According to the World Bank, remittances are often more stable and reliable than foreign aid, and they play a crucial role in reducing poverty and improving living standards in migrant-sending regions. In fact, for many countries in Africa, remittances are among the largest sources of foreign income, contributing significantly to the local economy and helping to fund education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Addressing misinformation around migration. While migration has clear economic and social benefits, it is often clouded by misinformation and negative stereotypes. Public discourse about migration is frequently dominated by fear-based narratives that portray migrants as threats to security, job markets, and national identity. These views, often perpetuated by media outlets and political leaders, can fuel xenophobia, discrimination, and public resistance to migration policies. One of the most common misconceptions is that migrants take jobs away from native-born citizens. However, research has consistently shown that migrants complement rather than compete with local workers. Migrants often take on jobs that are difficult to fill, such as low-wage manual labor or care work, rather than displacing local workers. In fact, migrants can create new jobs by stimulating demand for goods and services and by contributing to the growth of local businesses. Another widely held but incorrect belief is that migrants are a drain on public resources. While it is true that migrants may initially require support for integration, research shows that over time, migrants contribute more to taxes than they receive in benefits. They are particularly important in countries with aging populations, where they help to maintain the labor force and sustain public services. Moreover, migrants often bring different cultural and intellectual perspectives that enrich the social fabric of host countries, contributing to a more diverse and innovative society. Combating misinformation requires a shift in the way migration is discussed in the media and by policymakers. Public awareness campaigns and educational initiatives can help dispel myths and highlight the positive contributions migrants make to their new communities. Migrant success stories, particularly those of individuals who have made significant contributions to their host countries, can serve as powerful counter-narratives to the negative stereotypes that often dominate public discourse. The need for proactive policies on migrant integration. While migration offers numerous benefits, it also presents challenges related to integration, particularly for migrants who face significant barriers such as language, cultural differences, or limited access to services. For migration to be truly successful, it is essential that host countries implement proactive integration policies that enable migrants to participate fully in society. Successful integration involves a range of strategies, from providing language and cultural orientation programs to facilitating access to education, healthcare, and housing. By ensuring that migrants have the support they need to thrive in their new environment, host countries can enhance social cohesion and reduce the risk of social exclusion. Education is a key component of integration, not only for children, but also for adults. Language classes and vocational training programs can help migrants acquire the skills necessary to enter the labor market and participate in the economy. These programs can also promote cultural understanding and foster a sense of belonging among migrant populations. When migrants can communicate effectively in the language of their new country and understand local customs and norms, They are more likely to integrate successfully and contribute to the community. Furthermore, it is important to create pathways for migrants to obtain legal status, such as citizenship or permanent residency. This allows them to fully participate in the political, economic, and social life of their new country, and it helps foster a sense of security and belonging. Host countries should work to streamline immigration processes, making it easier for migrants to regularize their status and access the rights and services they are entitled to. Local governments can also play a crucial role in integrating migrants by providing resources and support for communities to embrace diversity. Encouraging community engagement, cross-cultural dialogue, and inclusive events can help build stronger bonds between migrants and the local population. These efforts can reduce tensions and foster a climate of mutual respect and understanding. Expanding the role of technology in migration management. As migration continues to rise, technology will play an increasingly important role in ensuring that migration is managed effectively and humanely. Technological innovations can help streamline processes, improve the safety of migrants, and provide better support for migrants in transit. One of the key areas where technology can be beneficial is improving the efficiency of asylum and immigration processes. Digital platforms that allow migrants to submit applications, track their status, and access important information about their rights and responsibilities can help reduce delays and ensure that migrants receive timely assistance. Technology can also help to reduce the burden on immigration officials, enabling them to process applications more quickly and efficiently. Additionally, technology can help to enhance migrant safety by providing real-time information about the risks and dangers of migration routes. Apps and platforms that provide migrants with information on safe routes, legal documentation, and emergency contacts can help protect them from exploitation and human trafficking. These platforms can also enable migrants to stay in touch with their families and receive support from NGOs and government agencies. Moreover, the use of big data and artificial intelligence can improve migration forecasting and planning. Governments and international organizations can use data to better understand migration trends, predict future flows, and allocate resources more effectively. By identifying patterns in migration, policymakers can make more informed decisions and ensure that migration systems are responsive to changing dynamics. Addressing the climate crisis as a migration driver. One of the most significant emerging drivers of migration is climate change. Extreme weather events, such as droughts, floods, and hurricanes, are displacing millions of people around the world, particularly in regions that are already vulnerable due to poverty or conflict. Climate-induced migration is likely to increase in the coming years, placing additional pressure on both countries of origin and destination. To address the growing issue of climate migration, it is crucial that governments and international organizations take proactive steps to address climate change and its impact on migration. This includes investing in climate resilience and adaptation programs to help communities in vulnerable areas cope with the effects of climate change. Additionally, policies must be put in place to protect climate migrants, ensuring that they have access to refuge, assistance, and the opportunity to rebuild their lives. International agreements, such as the Paris Climate Agreement, must be fully implemented to reduce the levels of climate change and mitigate its effects. Moreover, countries must ensure that migration policies are flexible enough to accommodate climate-induced displacement, offering protection to those who are forced to move due to environmental factors. A path toward sustainable migration systems. The issue of migration requires a multidimensional approach that considers the economic, social, political, and environmental factors that drive migration. Migration is an inevitable and natural part of human movement, and with the right policies and strategies in place, it can bring significant benefits to both migrants and host countries. By focusing on human rights, expanding legal pathways, promoting social cohesion, and addressing the root causes of migration, we can create a sustainable migration system that benefits everyone. The key to success lies in collaboration between governments, civil society, the private sector, and international organizations, and a commitment to building systems that are both humane and effective. As migration continues to shape the global landscape, we must ensure that our approach remains flexible, responsive, and rooted in the principles of equality, justice, and respect for all people, regardless of their migration status. The time to act is now, and through collective effort and shared responsibility, we can build a world where migration is a safe and empowering experience for all. The role of African leadership in shaping migration policies. As Africa continues to be a major source of migrants, African leaders have a unique and crucial role to play in shaping migration policies that prioritize the safety, dignity, and rights of migrants. African countries must not only focus on preventing migration, but on addressing the structural factors that drive people to seek opportunities abroad, such as poverty, conflict, and environmental degradation. African leaders must work to create policies that not only manage migration flows, but also build resilience and opportunities within their countries. By investing in education, job creation, infrastructure, and peace-building efforts, African governments can reduce the push factors that force individuals to leave their home countries. Long-term strategies for regional development, such as fostering economic integration within the African continent, can offer young people better opportunities to stay in their countries and contribute to their local economies. Moreover, African leaders should advocate for a fair and equitable global migration system that recognizes the specific challenges and needs of the continent. They should collaborate with international partners, such as the European Union, the United Nations, and international NGOs, to create agreements that prioritize human rights while addressing security and economic concerns. African leaders must push for international policies that respect the rights of migrants, allow for greater legal migration opportunities, and provide better protection for refugees and displaced persons. At the same time, African governments should recognize the significant role of the diaspora in contributing to the development of their home countries. Remittances sent by African migrants provide crucial financial support to families and communities, which can be used to fund education, healthcare, and local businesses. As such, African governments should consider ways to engage their diaspora communities and harness their potential to support development initiatives in their countries of origin. Finally, African leaders should take steps to enhance regional cooperation on migration management. The African Union, regional economic communities like ECOWAS, and national governments must collaborate to implement policies that facilitate the free movement of people, protect migrant rights, and ensure that migration is a choice, not a forced necessity. This would involve harmonizing visa and labor mobility policies and addressing the challenges of cross-border migration through joint initiatives. Summary and key messages. The migration crisis is a complex issue that requires a coordinated global approach to address the root causes and ensure that the safety and dignity of migrants are upheld. African leaders have a pivotal role to play in shaping migration policies that not only manage migration flows, but also create the conditions necessary for people to thrive within their own countries. By addressing the economic, social, and political factors that drive migration, African countries can reduce the pressures pushing individuals to leave and instead offer more opportunities for people to remain and contribute to their communities. Key messages. 1. Migration is a global issue that requires cooperation across borders. Countries must work together to ensure the protection of migrants' rights and address the root causes of migration, such as conflict, economic hardship, and environmental degradation. 2. Investing in development and regional integration is key. African countries should focus on creating opportunities for economic growth, education, and stability to reduce the need for migration and promote the well-being of their citizens. 3. Legal pathways for migration must be expanded. Countries of both origin and destination should work together to create safe and legal migration channels, reducing the risks associated with irregular migration. 4. Public awareness and education are essential. Misinformation about migration must be countered by public awareness campaigns that highlight the positive contributions migrants make to society and foster social cohesion. 5. The private sector can contribute to migrant integration. Businesses and the private sector should collaborate with governments and NGOs to provide job opportunities, skills training, and support for migrant communities. 6. African leaders must champion the rights of migrants. By taking a proactive role in international migration negotiations, African leaders can ensure that migration policies are equitable, fair, and in line with human rights standards. In conclusion, while migration is a complex and challenging issue, it also presents an opportunity for positive change. By working together, African leaders, governments, international organizations, and the private sector can create a migration system that benefits both migrants and host countries, fostering a world where migration is safe, legal, and dignified for all. African leaders must seize this opportunity to promote development, regional cooperation, and human rights, ensuring that migration is a choice made with hope, not a desperate escape from hardship. Thank you for watching this powerful story of survival and tragedy. We hope this video has provided you with a deeper understanding of the dangers migrants face and the urgent need for global cooperation. If you found this video insightful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Bold African Voice, BAV. Join the conversation by sharing your thoughts below, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for our latest content. Together, let's make the difference.